Welcome to Fraud Friday. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking loan fraud. Bankers, public officials, and borrowers who got caught this week across the pond. UK small business fraudsters and what the Crown did about it. Hey, I'm a huge Anglophile. For those of you who don't know, I have a degree in medieval history. I got a real degree from USC and master's in real estate finance. But medieval history is fascinating to me. First of all, it taught me how to think and how to read and how to write. So what I find very interesting about this, first of all, I could talk politics. I could talk British politics and not immediately lose half my audience and not have half of you screaming about about the American political system. I can talk British politics, which probably I know less than 0.5% have a dog in that fight. But what's fascinating to me is the parallels between the fraud in Britain and the fraud in the United States. Now, first of all, you got to love the English. You have to love their names. They call it the bounce back scheme. All of their systems and programs, they're called schemes. And I love bounce back because obviously there was a problem and they're bouncing back. So they call it the bounce back scheme. And what they did is they crafted a program. And as always, the number's a little bit off, but it's a 77-pound billion-dollar program. And the pound right now at $1 will buy you 1.25 English pounds. So pound's a little bit higher. Well, it is higher than the US dollar, 25%. And what they did is the English said, okay, you're a small business director. In order to own a small business, you're called the director. And if, by the way, if you run across their laws, they will not allow you to be a director of a business. You could, once you are convicted of fraud, you can't start in the small business. Interesting. And so they said, okay, up to $50,000, similar, but it wasn't employee based. And the money could be used for working capital to buy equipment. They said you could buy vehicles, i.e. a car. So they were more concerned about stimulating the economy versus protecting employees. The second important thing, max of 50,000 pounds, but it was a loan, 2.5%, and that it has to be paid back. They would forgive the interest for 12 months, and then it would be amortized over 6 to 10 years. But what is interesting, first of all, you're going to love this. It is managed by the Insolvency Service. Forget the Small Business Administration. It's the Insolvency Service. If there was fraud, the lenders make these loans, but they call it guarantee removals, not denial of guarantee as in 7(a), but guarantee removals. In other words, if there was fraud, the lenders are responsible and they're going to lose their guarantees. How much is the fraud? And it's about 3%, similar numbers to what we have over here. And they are looking to claw back. Now, one of the footnotes if you look at Kelly Loeffler's day one memo, she wants to appoint a fraud czar to go after PPP fraud. Well, the English have already done it. There's a lady here by the name of Rachel Reeves. She's the COVID corruption czar to claw back billions of waste. And you have to love some of her quotes. Reeves is expected to tell Parliament that the commissioner will, quote, get back what is owed to the British people, saying money has been in the hands of fraudsters when it belongs in public services. I will not tolerate waste. I will treat taxpayers' money with respect, and I will return stability to our public finances. She expected to point the finger for the flawed contracts directly to the Prime Minister, particularly the billions wasted on personal protective equipment, PPE equipment. We're going to have a fraud czar our own, and I suspect we'll probably see the similar type of quotes. So therefore, we're following the British on that. And there's a bank called the British Business Bank. Their motto is unlocking finance for smaller businesses. This is a fascinating quote written May 2nd, 2020. This is right now. We started accepting PPP loan applications second week in April, maybe in April. Don't hold me to it, but you all lived through that first couple weeks in April. So the British were a little bit behind us, but this is a fascinating quote. Over the last 10 days, we've been working rapidly with your officials, with HMT, Her Majesty's Treasury, to prepare for the launch of the Bounce Back Loans scheme. We are all doing the best we can in an unprecedented situation, and we are acutely aware of the imperative for us to act. So we have the similar type of pressures in the United States as well across in Europe. We had to move quickly. I interviewed Senator Marco Rubio, that's on YouTube, and he told me directly, hey, if we didn't move quickly, we were going to have civil unrest. A fascinating conversation, and a very unique take is that Congress and the staff, these people are smart, and they understood that we were opening a social fraud. In fact, it was very clear in the legislation, lenders would be held harmless. We're not going to hold the lender responsible for the fraud of the borrower. They didn't quite go that far in England, but they certainly had the incentive to move quickly. This is a minor note. I'll bring it up very quickly. The interest rate was set at 2.5%. They did not like that. They felt that that low of a rate would only allow the larger banks to dominate in England and cut out the smaller lenders. By the way, if you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. Bank of Dave on Netflix. If you're a lender, if you like rock music, it is phenomenal. The first community bank license in England in 100 years. Gotta watch it. Anyway, you have to watch it. It is amazing. Now, we're talking about fraud. The scheme is vulnerable to abuse by individuals and by participants in organized crime. Alongside the fraud risk, there will be considerable credit risk in the current economic environment, which will be exacerbated by removing significant elements of credit checks that otherwise would have been undertaken. In the English law, it said, hey, you need to approve these loans within 24 hours. If there's extenuating circumstances, we're going to let you go up to another 48 hours. But they knew right away they could not get it that fast without doing their due diligence. So they were facing the same pressures. Anyway, I thought you'd find that fascinating. We came up with two different systems. Obviously, PPP with the amount of impact that it saved jobs much more effective than the bounce back loan scheme. But give the British the credit. They were trying to do it, but they recognized the fraud. They also had the fraud, similar numbers to what we had here in the United States. So criticism of the PPP rollout, I believe, is fair. Because the fraud should not have occurred, but I have yet to come up with a rationale of how to have made it better in getting the money out quickly. You have to remember how quickly we got money out to Main Street. President Trump announced this on March 17th, the emergency. Money was flowing out of PPP within 30 days. I'm embellishing it at 30 days, which is phenomenal for a bipartisan Congress and the president to do that. It was amazing how quickly we moved. And money started flowing in April. In the UK, it didn't start for another 30 days later. So there's always trade-offs. Getting the money out had to be done. There were glitches. A lot of those issues were solved with PPP 2.0, but hindsight's 2020. But with my history, I love going back dissecting what we're doing. Hey, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us today for Fraud Friday, so you can stop criminals here and across the pond from stealing from you.